Right now, I mean, literally right this second, a piece of code written entirely by a machine is silently attacking a high school's grading system.
Right.
And at the exact same time, 240,000 miles away, a human being is looking out a window at the dark side of the moon.
It's just wild to think about.
It really is. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We've got a massive daily briefing sitting in front of us from today, May 15th, 2026.
And honestly, at first glance, the topic seemed totally fractured.
Yeah, completely disconnected. We're looking at global diplomatic summits, blocked oceans, massive corporate restructuring, and like you said, catastrophic cyber attacks on local education.
Right. But our mission today is to untangle all these global events for you. We want to show you how they are actually all linked by one underlying current.
Which is the rapid deployment of artificial intelligence, right? And the incredibly fragile global infrastructure that's, well, kind of just barely holding it all up.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I'm looking at this stack of news, and where do we even begin with a briefing this heavy?
Well, to understand what is happening in local classrooms today, we actually have to start by looking at the geopolitical chessboard.
Okay, makes sense.
Specifically, we need to look at the historic summit that just wrapped up in Beijing between President Trump and President Xi Jinping. Because the physical reality of how technology is built and shipped, that dictates absolutely everything downstream.
Right, because we can't have the digital cloud without the physical wires and silicon on the ground.
Exactly.
So let's lay out the facts of this summit impartially, just based on what the sources are giving us.
Yeah, let's just stick to the briefing.
Right. President Trump and President Xi met for 2 days in Beijing, and they covered an incredibly dense agenda. They discussed Taiwan, the ongoing blockade in the Middle East, and technology exports.
And the political narratives emerging from this summit are completely split.
Oh, totally. We are seeing two completely different stories. On one side, you have Secretary of State Marco Rubio publicly stating the U.S. asked China for absolutely nothing regarding Iran. But then, over on CNBC, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is suggesting China will actually use its back-channel influence to help resolve the situation. And again, we're not taking a side here. We're just reporting what the sources are saying.
Absolutely. And the situation they're referring to, of course, is the Hormuz crisis, which is now entering its third grueling month.
3 months. I mean, that is a massive global choke point.
It really is. Roughly 20% of the world's oil supply flows through the Strait of Hormuz.
20%.
Yeah. And since late February, following the assassination of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and the subsequent military strikes involving the U.S., Israel, and Iran, well, the strait has been effectively blocked.
Wow.
Iran extended its operational area into the Gulf of Oman. The peace talks are totally stalled. And now the UK is actually deploying drones, fighter jets, and a Royal Navy warship just to protect commercial shipping.
I think a lot of people hear, blocked oil, and they immediately just think about the price of gas at the pump, or maybe what it costs to charge an EV.
Right, that's the immediate reaction.
But this briefing frames it so differently. It makes it clear that this isn't just an energy crisis.
No, not at all. It is fundamentally a tech supply chain crisis.
Because of the manufacturing.
Exactly. That blocked energy is required to run the massive fabrication plants in Asia. Companies like TSMC in Taiwan and Samsung in South Korea, they're the ones printing the world's microchips.
Oh, I see.
So when oil prices spike, the immensely energy-intensive process of manufacturing a semiconductor just becomes drastically more expensive.
And it's not just the manufacturing, right? The briefing mentions insurance premiums, too.
Yeah, the insurance premiums for cargo ships navigating those waters have hit historic highs, so the overall cost of manufacturing and shipping hardware globally is suddenly under immense pressure.
Okay, so amidst all that physical and financial pressure, we get the biggest tech news from the Beijing summit. Washington has reportedly cleared the sale of Nvidia's H200 AI chips to several major Chinese tech firms.
Right, which completely reverses the strict export restrictions put in place back in 2023.
Exactly. And I want to test a theory on you here.
Okay, let's hear it.
I look at these Nvidia H200 chips, and to me, they look exactly like 21st century crude oil.
Oh, interesting.
Right. I mean, they are the base resource that powers the entire new economy.
Hmm.
So, have semiconductors officially replaced oil as the ultimate diplomatic leverage? Especially considering Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, wasn't even at the summit, but his chips were clearly the main bargaining chip on the table.
Well, it is a very popular comparison, but it's actually fundamentally flawed.
Really? How so?
Think about it. Oil is consumed once and it burns away. It's fuel. An H200 chip sits in a server rack generating intellectual property and autonomous labor for a decade.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a huge difference.
It is not fuel, it is a synthetic brain.
A synthetic brain. I like that.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, clearing these chips changes the entire balance of global power. By allowing the sale of H200s, Washington is allowing a dramatic acceleration in China's domestic AI capabilities.
Even though the H200s are technically one generation behind Nvidia's absolute bleeding edge.
Yes, because they are still immensely powerful. Chinese labs had been relying on workarounds and older, less efficient chips, so this instantly raises their compute ceiling.
Okay, so Washington's literally lifting the ceiling on Chinese AI development, but simultaneously, the Hormuz blockade is making the physical manufacturing of those exact same chips more expensive.
Exactly. It is a delicate balancing act. The geopolitical gridlock is inflating the cost of the physical world, while diplomats are sitting in rooms negotiating who gets access to the digital one.
But you don't buy synthetic brains with pocket change.
Definitely not.
You buy them with massive corporate debt. So if the hardware is getting drastically more expensive to make and ship, how are networking companies managing to buy them at record volume?
Well, it turns out they are paying for it by cannibalizing their own workforce.
Yeah, let's look at the Cisco paradox, because this part of the briefing blew my mind.
It's quite a pivot. Cisco's CEO Chuck Robbins announced this week that the company is experiencing what he calls an AI-driven networking supercycle.
Right, so Cisco posted record quarterly revenue. Their stock surged 13.4% in a single session. And their AI security revenue jumped 70 to 80% year over year.
Incredible number.
By all traditional financial metrics, they are thriving, but they simultaneously announced they are cutting nearly 4,000 jobs.
Yep.
How does a company achieve a record-breaking financial quarter and instantly fire 4,000 employees? I mean, is the AI they are building already replacing the people building it?
Well, it is not a simple replacement. The briefing calls it a radical skill rotation.
Okay, what does that mean in practice?
Cisco is looking at the landscape and realizing that the era of traditional hardware sales is plateauing, right? Meanwhile, AI traffic is just surging.
So the network is getting clogged.
Exactly. As AI agents proliferate, the network itself, like the physical bandwidth and the security protocols, that becomes the bottleneck.
Ah, I see.
So they're cutting traditional roles managing older network architecture to aggressively redirect that capital specifically into AI integration and cybersecurity.
So they are fundamentally rewriting the company's DNA to support a completely different type of internet traffic.
It's exactly it.
And the cost of executing a pivot that massive depends entirely on the macroeconomic weather, which actually brings us to a major transition of power today, May 15.
Right. Kevin Warsh has just been confirmed by the Senate as the 17th chair of the Federal Reserve, replacing Jerome Powell.
And again, just looking impartially at the facts here, it was a highly divisive 54 to 45 vote.
Yes, breaking almost entirely along party lines, which makes it one of the most divided confirmations for a Fed chair in history.
But the political mechanics of the vote aside, Warsh's confirmation sent a massive shockwave through the tech sector today.
Oh, absolutely.
The S&P 500 just hit a record 7,501, and the Dow Jones crossed back over 50,000.
So why does a shift in leadership at the central bank matter so much to a company trying to build an AI data center? Because AI infrastructure is astronomically expensive. I mean, you are talking about billions of dollars just to secure the land, power, and cooling, let alone buying the actual Nvidia chips.
Right.
And that requires massive corporate borrowing. Warsh is a former Fed governor who has publicly argued that there is room to lower interest rates, though he maintains he will exercise independent, data-driven judgment.
Gotcha. So the market is aggressively betting on his openness to rate cuts.
But precisely.
It's basically just like how you or I might care about a rate cut lowering our mortgage or credit card payments, right? These tech giants care because a 0.25% drop saves them tens of millions of dollars on their data center loans.
Exactly. Lower interest rates mean cheaper capital, and cheaper capital allows tech companies to borrow massive sums to fund this networking supercycle we talked about.
So the financial spigot is opening wider, just as the AI arms race demands an unprecedented amount of cash.
That's a great way to put it.
All right, so the hardware is being negotiated by world leaders, the infrastructure is being rewired by corporations, and the central bank is poised to make it all cheaper to finance.
Right.
But here's where it gets really interesting. What are they actually building with all of this money in 2026? Because the briefing is very clear. We have moved light years beyond those early days of AI chatbots writing polite emails.
Oh, way beyond. We have crossed the threshold from generative hype into what analysts are calling agentic reality.
Agentic reality.
Yeah. The focus is no longer just scaling up language models to predict the next word. It's about deployment and autonomy. We are seeing the rise of world models.
And Fei Lai's startup, World Labs, is the prime example here. They just launched their first commercial product called Marble.
Yes, Marvel is fascinating.
Reading about this completely shifts the paradigm for me. Marvel doesn't just process text or 2D images. It actually simulates how physical environments behave over time.
Right.
It allows an AI to reason about spatial relationships and predict the physical consequences of an action. But how is that different from what older AI did?
So, to understand the difference, think about a traditional language model. It might know the word glass is often associated with the word shatter.
Okay, because it's read a lot of text.
Exactly. But a world model understands the physics of gravity and impact. It actually knows that if it pushes a virtual glass off a virtual table, it will fall and break.
That's crazy.
It essentially gives an AI system the ability to understand the intuitive physics of our physical world so it can operate autonomously within it, which is, revolutionary for robotics and scientific modeling.
But there's a severely dark side to handing AI that level of autonomous reasoning.
Unquestionably.
The same capabilities used to simulate physical environments are currently being weaponized in the digital one. 2026 has been dubbed the year of AI-assisted attacks.
Yeah, the stats are grim. The briefing notes that 28.3% of all software vulnerabilities are now exploited within 24 hours of public disclosure.
Wait, 24 hours?
Yes. The timeline between a vulnerability being discovered and hackers exploiting it has completely collapsed. Human beings simply cannot write, test, and deploy a defensive patch in less than a day.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
And the nature of the attacks is shifting too. Like Google's threat intelligence team just found evidence of a hacker using an AI model to build the first ever zero-day bypass for two-factor authentication.
Yes, the semantic logic flaw.
Right, the briefing calls it a semantic logic flaw, but I really need help visualizing that. How does an AI bypass two-factor authentication without just, brute forcing the password?
Okay, think of traditional cybersecurity like a bouncer at a club looking for known fake IDs. It scans for known bad signatures. That's a syntactic check.
Okay, checking the formatting.
Right. But a semantic logic flaw is different. It's a mistake in the human logic of the code itself.
Oh.
It's like the bouncer carefully checking to see if an ID is fake, but forgetting to check if the person handing it to them is actually the person in the photo.
Wow, so the AI read the open source code like a language, understood the underlying intent of the programmer, and spotted a logical contradiction.
Exactly. It found a hard-coded trust assumption that allowed it to slip right past the two-factor authentication without ever needing the password.
So the AI isn't picking the lock. It's realizing the architect forgot to put a wall next to the door.
That is the perfect way to describe it.
And it's not just open source tools getting hit. The briefing mentions suspected Chinese state-sponsored hackers are actively exploiting a critical zero-day vulnerability in Palo Alto Network's firewall software.
Right, giving unauthenticated attackers root access to secure networks.
And then you have an anonymous researcher going by Chaotic Eclipse dropping proof-of-concept code for two unpatched Windows 0 days. One is called Yellow Key, and it completely bypasses BitLocker encryption on Windows 11 by exploiting the recovery environment.
And BitLocker is supposed to be the ultimate failsafe.
Right.
But Yellow Key proves that if an attacker has physical access to a machine, the encryption is functionally useless now. This is the reality of the compressed attack pipeline. Nation-state-level hacking tools, which used to take teams of specialized engineers months to develop, are now readily generated by AI.
And accessible to sophisticated criminal groups.
Exactly.
But to counter that threat, we are seeing the defense adapt in real time, right? Like, OpenAI just announced an initiative called Daybreak.
Yes, the automated defense.
They're using specialized GPT 5.5 models to autonomously scan code repositories and propose patches before attackers strike.
Right, it's less like building a taller digital wall and more like deploying an automated immune system.
An immune system.
Yeah.
So the moment a new AI virus enters a network, this GPT model generates synthetic white blood cells like custom real-time patches to neutralize the infection before it spreads.
It is a profound shift in cybersecurity architecture. We are transitioning away from a strategy of, patching as fast as humans can type.
Because humans are too slow.
Way too slow. We're moving to a paradigm where we rely on AI to keep up with the AI attacking us. We are literally being forced to trust these models to independently defend the very networks they live on.
It's like an autonomous drone war, where the weapons and the shields are writing their own code in real time, leaving human defenders as mere spectators.
That's exactly what it feels like.
Okay, so we've talked about geopolitics in Beijing, massive debt restructuring on Wall Street, and autonomous code wars.
A lot of high-level stuff.
Right. But where does this all crash into your daily reality as a listener? Where do the physical supply chain bottlenecks and the autonomous cyber threats actually meet on the ground?
Well, the answer is in our local schools.
Yeah. This week, the education sector experienced a catastrophic security incident, the Canvas LMS ransomware breach.
Which is huge.
Huge. The hacking group Shiny Hunters breached Instructure, the parent company of Canvas. And Canvas is the learning management system used by almost everyone.
Right, millions of people.
We're talking about 9,000 schools affected, and the data of 275 million students and educators exposed.
Just staggering numbers.
Now, Instructure cut some sort of unspecified deal with the hackers, and they're insisting passwords and student work weren't compromised.
Sure, but the hackers still obtained usernames, email addresses, course names, and enrollment data.
Which is incredibly dangerous.
Extremely. Because a hacker doesn't need your password if they know exactly what classes you are taking. They use that specific data to launch devastating, highly targeted phishing attacks.
Oh, I see.
Imagine a student receives an email that looks exactly like it's from their AP history teacher saying, their final paper didn't upload correctly and providing a link to log in and fix it.
The student panics.
Right. The student panics, clicks the link, enters their credentials, and boom, the hackers are in. Doing this right in the middle of finals week is a calculated, high-leverage tactic.
That is just brutal. And this breach exposes a deeply frustrating federal contradiction. The federal government, through initiatives like the Digital Equity Act, is heavily pushing local K-12 schools to adopt data-intensive AI tools.
Yes, they want classrooms modernized for this new economy.
But simultaneously, the grants that used to fund cybersecurity coordinators and incident response teams at the district level have been completely slashed.
It's a massive oversight. They are demanding schools adopt the autonomous technology of 2026, but leaving them with the cybersecurity budgets of 2016.
And if we tie this all the way back to our first segment, the local school district is completely trapped by the global supply chain.
Yeah, full circle.
Because the briefing points out that only 16% of K-12 schools actually have the network infrastructure ready to handle AI.
Right, they need higher bandwidth and lower latency.
But they can't afford the hardware upgrades. Because of the Strait of Hormuz blockade and the spiking energy and shipping costs, the price of basic Chromebooks and networking equipment has jumped 8 to 15%.
It's all connected.
The geopolitical gridlock is literally eating the local school district's technology budget.
Yes.
So what does this all mean? When you look at the Canvas breach, the rising hardware costs and the lack of federal support, where does that leave a local school?
It leaves them as the weakest link in this massive, fragile infrastructure. Schools are caught between irreconcilable forces. They are pressured to implement advanced AI to prepare students for a changing world, but the hardware to run it is becoming too expensive due to distant global conflicts.
And meanwhile, the software they rely on is actively targeted.
Exactly. Targeted by automated cyber attacks that they have absolutely no resources to defend against.
Man, the sheer scale of the fragility across the board is heavy.
It is very heavy.
But, as the briefing promised, we do have a palate cleanser. While all of this chaos is happening on the ground, human beings are still doing incredible things above it.
Thankfully, yes. The historic Artemis II mission.
Yes. This week, NASA astronauts Christina Koch, Victor Glover, and Jeremy Hansen, alongside Commander Reed Wiseman, swung around the far side of the moon.
And they traveled further from Earth than any human beings have in over 50 years.
It's amazing. Christina Koch is the first woman to make this journey. Victor Glover is the first black astronaut. Jeremy Hansen is the first non-American. The images coming back are just breathtaking.
They really are.
You see Earth looking like a tiny, fragile marble suspended in the dark. And the astronauts are just radiating pure joy as they float by the portholes. After years of budget battles and delays, seeing humanity actually go back to the moon is a vital reminder that when we align our resources and point ourselves in the same direction, we are capable of extraordinary things.
It is a striking contrast to the chaos we've discussed today, and it prompts a question I'd actually like to put directly to you, the listener.
Go for it.
When you look at all of this today, what stands out to you? Is it the alarming fragility of our digital lives and supply chains, or is it the incredible, enduring resilience of human exploration?
It is the ultimate juxtaposition.
It really is. And I will leave you with this final thought to mull over. We possess the mathematical and engineering precision to calculate exactly what it takes to send 4 human beings around the dark side of the moon through the absolute hostility of deep space and bring them home safely.
Yeah.
We trust the math because we built the equations. But down here on Earth, as we rapidly hand over the keys to our global networks, our local schools, and our very security to autonomous AI agents, how do we engineer trust into systems that we can no longer entirely comprehend?
Wow. That is the question of the decade right there. Well, thank you for joining us on today's deep dive. Stay curious, keep questioning the systems around you, and we'll catch you next time.